Hello techies, welcome. Before we get into the video or the project, make sure you like this video while you're watching it if you enjoy it, and if it's useful to you, don't forget to subscribe or else you might not get the chance to and you're going to miss out on great videos. Trust me, you want to subscribe now. Alright guys, let's get into the video. Alright, so I have a file created already on my desktop for this, and then so we're going to set up Tkinter now and set up the base window. I'm going to call it base window and give it the title of your first Tkinter table. And if it's not your first, you can go ahead and change the title. Yeah, let's give it a label called this rigged EPL table like we have on the thumbnail, and give it a font of Montserrat 30 bold. So this might not work for you because you might not have it installed on your system or your PC. So you might want to install it or just search for the default font you have. You can use something like Arial, ARIAL. It comes with most system by default, so you can use that as well, or install this and use it, or use any other install font on your PC. All right, yeah. So I'm going to create the data for our table right now. The first row is going to be the colon. Those are the headings, so the standings, the number, the clubs, and then the points. So the first person here that should be on top of the table, of course, is Manchester United. Of course, we are not at the moment, but anyway, I want to put that clubs and then put Brighton last there because I like them. All right. So if you don't watch football, don't worry about any of that. These are just table data. All right. So let's run it and see what we have so far. Your table should look like this, except that the font, the text here might look different based on the fonts you have here. All right. So now let's get straight into creating our table. So I'm going to create the table in form of a class. So this way our table is reusable. All right. So you can use it in any other project you have. You can take the class away from here and put it in a separate file. So you can keep importing this file and be using your table widget wherever you want. All right. So it's going to inherit from Tkinter frame, and I'm going to get to that in a bit. But then we're going to call our constructor, and then it's going to take a few arguments. It's going to take the parent, which will be, or basically where we want to put the table in our project. Okay. So the next thing here is the table data. Okay. And yeah. So down here, we're going to do super.init master equals to parent. So what this is doing basically is super here refers to Tkinter frame. And then when we are doing the init, of course, we are calling the initializer function of the frame widget here. It's almost the same thing as saying Tkinter frame, then opening your brackets and putting in your master. That's the frame or the widget you are inheriting from. In this case, it's going to be whatever we pass in as parent, which will be our base window. All right. It's nothing complicated. We're just calling our frame widgets. All right. So next up, we're going to create our table columns, and then the way we're going to do that is, of course, our table columns here is the first row in this data list. Okay. And then we're going to convert we're going to say for each item in the data list of 0, and then we're going to convert them to lowercase. And you might notice that they are in parentheses, which means they are tuples. And the reason why I'm using tuples is because they are memory efficient, and we're not going to be changing this data. Okay, so we're just going to use tuples. But if we use it like this, we're going to get a generator object. And to make sure we get the data we want another generator object, we're just going to call the tuple function on this again, which will then convert that generator object of a tuple back to normal data. All right. Now we're going to create our table. We're going to use a widget called the TreeView. If you don't know about it, you're going to learn a bit about it because it can be used for quite a number of things. And the first thing we're going to inherit here is self. Okay, so when self, you don't forget, whenever you create a widget, the first thing you usually inherit is the parent where your widget is going to exist. So just like our label here, you're inheriting from the base window. This is going to be inherited from self, which is the frame object which we would be creating here whenever we create a new table widget. Right. Okay, so and then we're going to put some other arguments here. The first one, which is colons, which we take in this our colon data here, and then we're going to say what is to show as headings. All right, so you have a number of options. I'm going to show a site here on your screen up now. I'm going to leave the link in the description section below, so if you want to learn more about that, you can just view it. So I'm going to talk more about these columns soon in just a few lines. All right. So the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to say self.table.headings. Now I want to set what our headings are going to look like actually. So these columns here, where we pass this lowercase number, clubs, and point, doesn't actually tell our program what is going to show as the table heading. All right. So I'm going to do this no. So this no is going to target this lowercase no here. All right, which is what we would have converted to lowercase here rather. And then we're going to say we want our table to hold the text no. So this is what is going to actually show on the table. So we don't need to convert this to lowercase. We can leave it as uppercase if you want, okay? But I just want to leave it so you guys, it's apparent to you that this doesn't necessarily have to be the same thing as this, okay? We're just going to be referencing using this here as a reference here as the first parameter in this headings method or function rather. Depends on how you say it. Then we're going to do the same thing for the other columns. And yeah, so now let's create our table widget down here and let's see what we have so far. We're going to come here and then we're going to run this. And yes, of course, you're not going to see anything because you have not done two important things. All right. Don't forget, you need how to make sure you configure this to show your widgets to show in your layout manager. All right, which we are going to do now. So our table, we're going to make it a grid. We're going to make it a grid, row 0, column 0, and then sticky on all sides. And then don't forget, this is also if widget, your frame widget, you also want to make that show. So I'm going to use a pack for that. And now if you save this and try it again, you should get our table. As you can see, so we see no clubs and points. All right, as you can see, they are not also in lowercase, which means this is what is actually showing here. Right, so let's move on and close this. Next thing to do is to show our table data. All right, and then we're going to say for our in range 1 to length table data. And the reason why we're using 1 here is if it's not apparent to you yet, is because the first thing here is the first index here, which is 0, is our table header, which we've used up here already. So what we just want to do instead is for our table data is to start from the second index, which is 1. That's why we have this here. And then we're going to insert this into our table. We're going to use this insert function. And the first thing here is going to take is the empty strings because we're just going to put it directly into the root element, the parent of this, the parent, which is TreeView as a row. Okay, it's just going to be an empty string. And then the next one here is going to be Tkinter. Tkinter means we're going to add a new row after every new row we add. Okay, so every new data is going to be added to the bottom of existing data. You're going to see that in a bit. So you can also put this to be 1. You can also put this to be 0. If you put it as 1, what will happen is it's going to add your first element, which is at 0, and then keep adding every other element to 1. So we're going to have your this first, and then when you add this is because this will be at 1. Okay, then when you add this is going to show. But then when we now want to add this is going to add this to the 1 position here. So this is going to shift this data down. All right, so you can try that. I'm going to leave it with that to do. Okay, so you should be able to do that in a few seconds from now because this is all it takes to show our table. Then the next thing is we need to pass in the values. Now these values here must correlate with this what we have in these columns. All right, in these columns parameter we have 3 things here. So our values also must contain 3 things, which is going to be at least 3 things, but it's going to pick the first 3 things. So which is going to be 1, Manchester United, and 20. Okay, the first 3 things there. All right, so I'm going to save that and let's see what we have. So as you can see down here, we have our table, which works good, great. But of course, we don't want this to be aligned to the center. We don't want this to just be by the size this way. So we're going to fix that now. And then to do that, we're going to use what we call the column function. We're going to use to target a column, and to reference the column, we're going to also use the same thing we have here. So we're going to reference no, and then we're going to say anchor. We want to anchor this to the center. Also in documentation I also sent, you can check the other options you have for this. Okay, so anchor is an option, then you can change this to whatever you want. So if you do that and save, you see what I'm talking about. As you can see, we have this at the center. So we're going to do the same thing for both the other columns. Now I'm just going to do that. Yeah, that should work. Yeah, that works perfectly. So the only thing missing now is just the colors from the thumbnail and then the scroll bar. Okay, in case you have a lot of data. Right, I'm going to close that and let's get into it. Right, so to be able to make the colors show, we're going to use something we call tags. They are just used to control the appearance of items on your table or in your TreeView. So now we're going to configure a tag. We're going to call it red, and this red is going to be used for any row that is going to have a background of red. If a tag is red, so I want it to have a background of red and a foreground, which is the text color could be white. I want the text color to be white because by default the color is usually black, and black doesn't look great on red, so I'd rather have it as white. So you can have this to whatever you want. So you can even make this blue and still give it a tag of red. So whenever you use your tag of red, it should just show blue because you configured it to be blue. So this is just a name tag. It can be anything. Of course, we want to make it something descriptive. We're going to create a bunch of other tags here, light blue. Of course, I'm not going to use foregrounds for everything because if you have gray, I don't want to change the color to white. Okay, I think that sounds good. And of course, we need to configure our row to make sure it knows that we have tags for different rows. So now, if you notice, I added the tags here at the end. Okay, those are the colors I want this to show. So now, for example, when we get to the first item here, it's going to check the last element, which is the item at index -1, and that will be the tag. So in this case, if it's going to be red, it's going to configure our tags to be red. Okay, so you can actually put multiple tags in here, and I think that's why they call these tags, right? We're using only one, so it's going to be just this one. So that's how this is going to work. Let's see what that looks like, or if it even works at all. Yeah, should work. And this is what we have so far. That looks good, innit?
What I have here, I don't know, but I think it looks awesome.
Okay, now I think the only thing left for us now is our scroll bar, if I'm not wrong. Let me clear this. Cool. Since you're building this table to be a widget which we can use, we're going to make our scroll bars a method. All right, so it's something the user can choose to activate or choose not to have depending on the kind of app they're building. All right, the first thing here is we're going to create, of course, create the scroll bar, then tell it wants it to be on the vertical, which means on the side like this, and then tell it where to focus on. It wants it to work with the table. All right, so we're also going to configure our table to work with the scroll bar. So things are all together and then they're not out of sync. So we're going to tell it we want to configure our table Y scroll to be set to our scroll bar. All right, and then we want to put our table on our frame. Okay, so we're going to do scroll bar the grid, and then we're going to put it just right after the table data. All right, we're going to save it just by the side. So we're going to save that, and of course, for it to work, we need to activate here. If you don't activate, you're not going to see anything. So let's come here and then let's run this. Okay, and then you can't see the use now, but I'm going to show you this now. Okay, so if I duplicate a lot of data, and so you're going to know the usefulness of the scroll bar. If I run this, okay, my bad, it's like comma here. Okay, let me add the comma. Okay, now if I run this, as you can see, we can scroll and we can move this. I mean, once you come to the and you see once you see the table, you know immediately that there's extra data at the bottom, and then you can scroll. Well, let's see what we have without the scroll bar. If I should comment this and I run this again, now once you see this, it's not evident that there's extra data at the bottom. So really, except you know before then you can scroll, but then the scroll bar helps you to be aware of that, which is good UX, good for the user experience. All right, I think that's all we need to build so far. I hope I'm not missing out on any feature from the thumbnail. Yeah, so that's it basically, guys. And one other thing I don't like is for my padding here, for my TreeView, I also add the padding. I'm going to give a padding of 20. I don't like the way things are too close to the edge. All right, so I think it's better this way. Hey techies, while I was editing the video, I discovered that I did not make this totally reusable, and I forgot to do that. So what we want to do instead is we don't want our headers to always be this. It should be whatever data, it should be gotten from whatever data the user passes in. All right, so this way, if you ever use this widget, your table headings will always be this. So now we're going to change it to be always the first row here, okay, which is whatever our user passes in here and whatever we have in our table columns. So to do that, what we just need to do is just say for I in table columns, and then let's just push this in. So here we're going to have I. Okay, so this will be, for example, we're going to go through the number, the clubs, and the points. Those are the table data. So this is going to be for I, and then this is going to be I dot capitalize. I think that's the method, if I'm not wrong. Okay, so we're going to do that for I, and then it should automatically do that for both clubs and points. Okay, so the same thing we're going to do here. So we're going to do I here actually. Okay, so this will automatically look through the table data table headings here in the first row of our data, and then it's going to create the headings and then create the rows. So these ones we can leave them. There are things, well, you decide to do whatever you want to do with this. Okay, so let's run it and see what we have. So this way we still have our table working perfectly well. So even if I change this to hello there keys and I save that, then we have hello there keys. Okay, that works fine. All right guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this tutorial, make sure you smash the like button without being hesitant, and subscribe. You don't want to miss out on other great videos I'll be releasing. Thanks for watching if you did up to this point, and peace.